Hey, what's up, y'all? We here with the SquADD. Oh, shit. I don't know where everybody is. There they are. I turned the wrong way. What's up, Doughboy? What we doing? I hate the intro. It's terrible. All right, you can't. All right, you're not doing this anymore.
I got it. So, Missy Elliott last week, she sent out a tweet, and she said, what was the most memorable era in hip-hop? It sparked a whole debate on Twitter. People were talking about like late 90s, early 2000s, whatever. So, us being the studious students that we are, we said we're going to debate about that and find out what was the best era in hip-hop. Chime in. Let us know what you think is your best era of hip-hop and why. Go ahead, put it in there, Pat, so I can know, then we're going to get to it.
Right, so we're going to... We debating what was the best era. I'm gonna say of music, and then we'll go by genre. So I'm gonna pin this comment. What was the best era in music? Flat out. We're gonna go genre by genre. All right. So boom, pinned.
Hip hop.
All right, hip hop first. Best era of hip hop.
I would say the best era of hip hop, pound for pound, would be the mid 90s. Not early 90s. It started to fall off late after Pac and Big died. But I would probably say right between 93 and 97 was the greatest years of hip hop. You had some really classic albums come out in that time. You had albums from Tupac. You had Me Against the World come out, I believe, in 94. You had All Eyes on Me come out in 96. You had Biggie's album Ready to Die. You had Illmatic come out in 94. Wu-Tang's debut album came out. So it was a lot. And this is when it was a lot of like lyricism. You know what I'm saying? Lyricism. I'm from the West Coast. There was a lot of classic West Coast albums. I remember, I believe Hall of Game by E40 came out right around that time. Doggy Style? No, Doggy Style came out in 92.
No, Doggy Style was 94.
93. So I forgot about that. That was really like the start of the Death Row era as well. Chronic. Oh, shit, Chronic. 92. Yeah. 92. So I would say between 92 and 97. You got a lot of like albums that will go down in infamy. I believe Mobb Deep's first album came out. 95. And then Ghostface.
Yes.
Cuban Links.
Wu-Tang
it was just
Clan, period.
90, I would say easily 92 to 97. What'd you say, Tony?
That's pretty legit.
I would agree with that time span because Illmatic is my favorite album of all time, followed by Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers.
I like
that.
It was
just a year by year. Only Built for Cuban Links, Mobb Deep's second album.
Like Water for Chocolate came out that time?
Like Water for Chocolate came out.
ODB's first album is my first Wu-Tang album.
Common's album, Resurrection, came out.
West Side Connection came out. That was not it.
But
I wasn't a fan.
What else came out?
Oh, stop! Southern Playalistic Cadillac Funky Music came out in 95.
And ATL is in 96.
Woo!
So it was cracking in that time period.
And that's when music
The Roots, Do You Want More came out.
Yes.
All these albums that I love to this day. Shoot, Nas' second album, It Was Written, came out. Which is, people argue about.
Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt came out in 96.
Reasonable Doubt.
Boom.
That was the classics upon, and that's when Cash was really
And Fuji's The Score came out the same day.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
You can't mess with this era. Because anything after that, like when you get into 2000, all you got is Kanye West.
And
That's not true though. That's not true.
The 2000s were lit though.
Here's my thing. I don't know what time span we can go on. Because if I had to pick, I would choose 95 to 05. I would
10 years?
I would use that 10 years.
You're gonna take up all the years.
I would take. Oh well, if I can't take that 10 years spot, then I would take 98 to 05.
Okay, what you got?
Oh, now who you got in that?
98 to 05. Just on Def Jam alone, you had DMX dropped the double.
Oh, I forgot. Okay.
He had Flesh of My Flesh and It's Dark and Hell is Hot.
Okay.
Onyx had Shut Him Down. Montel Jordan came out in 98.
Did you say Montel Jordan?
I did. Because Montel Jordan is an LA. He's an LA.
You feel those Mars in there,
I got a little bit in there.
Well, strictly hip hop.
Strictly hip hop.
Okay, strictly hip hop. Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life came out in 98.
That's not his best album.
It's not.
It was his best seller, but
It's not even his top 4 album.
No, not at all.
DMX in 99, you came out with DMX And then there was X. That was 99.
That wasn't that good, though. No.
It wasn't that other, but it was that.
This is why I can't agree with your era.
But I'm not done yet. Jay-Z Volume 3 came out then.
Which one was that one?
That was
Life and Times of
Sean. That wasn't it, but it's still
These are his May years.
You
can't
had
really find it back to like
the Blackout album.
The Blackout?
I'll give you Blueprint. I'll give you
Okay.
Blueprint. The Blueprint came out in 01.
Okay.
Yeah, that.
Blueprint
Those
is way better than
other
wait,
Jay-Z albums, no.
Benny Siegel's The Truth came out in 2000.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, Jay-Z's The Rock Familiar came
No,
out.
we're not gonna
That
do
was a good one.
No,
That was a good one.
Not really.
No.
Ludacris came out.
Yeah.
Luda.
You don't have a
Ludacris
classic,
came out.
You don't think Ludacris has a classic?
That was a
It's not a
classic.
classic.
It's not a classic.
That's one of his classics.
But that's not saying much. He's in Fast and Furious.
Classic Ludacris. It's a classic in Ludacris's house.
The Murderers. Memphis Bleak came out. The Understanding. That was
Are you really
album.
saying Memphis Bleak?
Memphis Bleak had his first album.
Let me tell you
I didn't
why.
like it.
Solid doesn't make it. I dropped all classics.
Classic.
Over here in my
Let me
time.
tell you why I have a problem with your era. Because what the era that you're talking about is widely regarded. I'll give you from like 97ish to really like 01, 02 was the No Limit era, which I hated.
I did not
hated
like
it.
the No Limit.
They had a stranglehold on
I was
hip
all for
hop,
it.
and I did not like it. The pen and pixel covers.
Oh my God.
Let me say this.
Snoop went there and died. I was like,
Just in defense of No Limit. Let me say this in defense of No Limit. Black owned.
Interference.
I knew that was coming.
Right.
Okay.
Because that's relevant. That's
But
relevant.
It's still
I
trash.
care about the music.
I care about the
Black
music too.
owned And consistent.
Give me one
It might not be
classic.
consistent,
Tell me, wait,
right.
Tony, let me get it. Give me one classic No Limit album.
Whatever you pick, I'm
One.
gonna walk out on.
One.
Ghetto D.
Come on, man.
Mr. Ice Cream Man.
No,
To
man.
be sold, not to be told.
By Snoop?
Right?
That was
That
trash.
was trash. Also,
And to
now
be
we-
honest with you, hold
Top
on.
dog was okay.
And let me tell you why I have a personal problem with the whole Master P thing. Master P came to the Bay Area, jacked their whole swag. Ice Cream Man, that was the Loonies, all of that. So I really couldn't get behind it. But outside of
Mr.
that,
Go Get Up Fabulous,
no,
1998.
not good. Silk the Shocker,
Unpredictable was better
Silk
than
the
the
Shocker.
Fabulous.
I hate
Sergeant
Silk
to
the
Game.
Shocker, oh my God.
He didn't even hear the beat.
And I always like this. Is I feel like hip hop was really confused after Tupac and Biggie died, and like that's why No Limit rose to power. That was a trash era in that time, and it wasn't until DMX came out like started to bring it back and rein it back in. But that's why I
He
can't
brought
go with
the
that.
aggression and the grittiness back
Exactly.
to hip hop. And we was like, oh, we've been waiting for this.
Exactly.
And DMX was somebody everybody could.
You can
feel.
even call
Yeah,
97. You said 97 to 05. That was still technically the shiny suit era. That's when Mason and Puff had the watches.
You just gonna leave out Kanye West, huh?
Well, I didn't get y'all come out before I can get to the rest of it. Kanye West came
I
out
think you got to.
2004.
Why don't you say 01 to 05? Because 97
But I'll
to
give
01
you
it
this
wasn't
in
enough.
classic tip in
But
your
listen,
time frame.
01 to
Like
05.
Water for Chocolate by
01
Common.
to 05, I can give you a lot of classes. Get Rich or Die Trying, like, you know,
50.
College Dropout.
Documentary.
Woo.
All that. 01 to 05. Take
Documentary.
Late registration.
You don't need
documentary.
97 and 01.
I'll take that.
Fire.
I'll take
So
that.
01 to 05 is a better
I
argument.
feel like
Black Album
Kanye,
definitely came
Kanye
out.
alone had so many classics that he saved eras. He made
Kanye?
that era-
Yeah.
He made that era.
What era?
Just his whole.
Two-
whenever Kanye was there.
2000s
he
though?
made that era pop.
Oh, like on
Jeezy
production
made
too?
05 pop for
Oh,
sure, though.
Jeezy.
Jeezy came out. Third
Jeezy.
Motivation 101
Dude.
came out.
Game came out in 05.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Jeezy never did it for me.
Are you changing?
Y'all just
Jeezy never did it for me.
y'all just never not gonna talk about Lil Wayne, huh?
He didn't
No,
have.
wait, wait,
He didn't have a classic album until
Who?
what?
The Carter.
Wayne,
Y'all didn't like-
That's true. That's true.
The first.
Y'all didn't like
That's
900
true.
Degrees?
No.
Oh, come on, man.
500 degrees.
No, his
was
500
a
degrees.
mixtape.
What was
This
the
is where
first
it was a mixtape.
The
But the
mixtape,
Carter was fire.
Carter 1 and 2.
Dedications when he's talking.
And his
about.
mixtapes?
The Block is Hot was the first album he had.
When was the Carter? What year was the Carter?
2004? 2004? Carter?
That was 2003.
The first one was fire.
So if you had to put 01 to 05 versus 92 to 97, what are you picking?
92, 93.
92, 97, I think. I have to.
Well, here's the thing. I will say
2004.
New York predominantly dominated those years.
No,
that
but
you
that's
talking
the
about.
thing though, because the West Coast had a run too. You had the rise of the Chronic, Doggy Style, like
That's
those
it.
in
Well,
those
that's it.
days.
You had the Chronic, you had Doggy
No,
Style.
Ice Cube too. Ice Cube's
Yeah.
whole
Death
catalog
Certificate
and
came out.
And the
everything.
DOC.
Shut up.
Nobody-
DOC was already done by life.
Yeah, he was-
but he was
We're not
behind
talking
the
about the
scenes.
gospel
He
section.
was behind the scenes.
But no, I feel like the East and the West Coast
The
kind of
West-
shared.
the
East
West
Coast,
dominated.
no, but then the West Coast
Dominated.
came back with Pac in '95.
But that was it.
But those
And that
are
was still
really.
all in the same umbrella.
The
That was
West
all under
Coast, the
same
West
umbrella.
Coast
They
didn't
had
truly
nobody
come
else.
back. They was just like, all right, we rocking.
You
with
can't
pop.
sleep because the 92 to 97, that was really Death Row's heyday in those years.
That's what I'm saying. But Pop, even when Pop came back with All Eyes on Me, that was under the Death Row umbrella.
But if you say Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg,
And Snoop.
Tupac, in those 5 years, they gave you everything on
But,
like.
but
what you
on that
needed.
same 5 years, you had Biggie, you had Nas, you had LL, who
Biggie.
still had arguably the biggest single in hip hop. Mama Said Knock You Out did ridiculous numbers.
That was like
Early
90.
90s. That was like the 80s.
That was 90.
It might have been like
No,
91. It was 90, 91.
So what are we talking?
You said 92.
I said 93 to
92, 97.
Because like one.
Souls, what was,
Souls of
The
Mischief.
Souls
East
of
Coast-
Mischief,
the
93
West
to the
Coast,
finish.
when
And
Dr.
Onyx
Dre,
Slam.
here's what shifted the coast. When Dr. Dre came out with the Chronic, it shifted the whole sound.
It shifted
that-
everything.
And,
yeah.
and the East Coast was
The way
kind of
he
getting
sampled
ignored,
stuff,
and then
right.
it was people slowly like.
And then
like
Snoop came-
Red Man was bubbling, and then Wu-Tang had that slow build, and Biggie had a slow build because people was like, we want this West Coast sound.
No, let me tell you.
And then they slowly
let me
came
tell
back
you
to
how
the East Coast.
instrumental the West Coast was at that time. You know how you was just talking about Onyx and all that. West Coast music was so big. If you look at an old school Onyx video, them niggas had lowriders doing the hydraulics. They was dressed like LA niggas because LA was so dominant.
But they didn't sound like it.
They didn't sound like LA, but they looked like LA niggas.
Cause slam, you can have a car bouncing like
just-
that. It really dope with slam. But the sound was very
It
like.
was very East Coast.
Let the boys be boys.
Right.
There was no way you could have a video in a car in a video and not have it doing hydraulics on
Slam.
slam.
Or else it was boring.
You can't have a Jeep.
It's the Civic.
But it was like that East Coast sound was kind
But
of
this
getting
is
ignored.
this is why I think I might be switching my time frame though. 01 to 05 might be better because you even got Eminem's best albums in that time. And you got 50 Cent. And you got arguably Jay-Z's best albums in that
That
time.
Black
frame.
Album definitely wasn't
Blueprint
that
and Blueprint and
Black
Black
Album.
Album.
Black Album was good.
Black Album was good, but that Blueprint was classic.
Classic.
Blueprint.
Arguably his best album. I think I might go to 01, 05. And you got College
staying.
Dropout and Late Registration.
And
I'm
like
staying in the
that.
90s.
I don't know, 01, 05 might be.
It's got some hitters. Though.
What year was Midnight Marauders?
93.
Oh.
That was a great album too, though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was
So
great.
did they come out in the? They didn't come out in the 80s, did they? When was the Beats, Rhymes, and
Yeah,
Live?
I think it was 90.
They came out
The
late
first one?
80s, early 90s when they
Yeah.
first, because they were
89 tops.
89?
Yeah, they
Oh, that's right.
They were with all of them. All of them were in the same movement.
That's my shit right there.
I think
Try.
01, 05.
I'm sticking.
I think 92, 97 would probably be better because that laid down the foundation. Without that, you're not
That's
gonna get 01,
I feel like
05.
that solidified rap here to stay. In the 80s, they was like, yeah, the rap is great because they thought it was gonna fail. They thought it was gonna be a fad. And then the 80s was like, nah, we're here. It's still rolling. But the 90s solidified it as a genre of music, and that I think also kind of helped start giving it the different levels of rap. Like with rock, you got easy listening, you got pop, you got heavy metal, you got thrasher, and then hip hop started to do the same thing. Like you had the hip hop people like Souls of Mischief, Tribe, Africa Bombada, but then you started getting into the real street stuff like Biggie, like Onyx, Dre and Snoop and all of them, and then you still had like East Bay, I mean not East Bay, but the Oakland rap, like Spice
Right.
One. Like I still
The
love
Loonies.
Spice One.
The Loonies.
I
didn't like the Loonies album.
I like
I
the-
bought it, but I didn't like the whole
the first album was the
Racing
first album,
Stack Over,
and it
they
didn't
just
have a
do it
lot
for
of
me.
hits
That
on
I
it.
Got Five on it was lit. And let's not forget about the blend of hip hop and R&B that Missy did with her debut.
Missy.
97. And then
I
Lauryn
think-
Hill with the singing and rapping.
Oh, man.
With the
Lauryn
Mississippi
is
State.
still-
This is just on a side note that
Unparalleled.
probably might be unrelated, but y'all remember that song "Up Jumps the Boogie" by Timberland,
That's
Genuine, and all that? I feel like they had a roster that could have dominated music because nobody had a roster
They
like
did.
that. They had rap, they had R&B, they were so futuristic.
When Timberland and
Aaliyah
Magoo came
like
out
left.
that first, that's the first place you heard Ludacris was on that Timberland and Magoo album.
Really?
It was Ludacris, and he had a song called Fat Rabbit. Let me
No,
touch
right.
it.
Yeah.
Let me
Oh,
feel
wow.
it. That Fat Rabbit. That was the first place
Fat
I
Rabbit.
ever heard Ludacris ever rap on.
Yeah.
That gave him national exposure because I mean he was big
He was
in
a
the
DJ,
South, but
right.
he was a DJ. He was working on radio. But the first place he got national exposure was Fat Rabbit. He had Twister on that joint. That's when Devontae had stepped away from Jodeci and he was having produced with Timberland and Magoo and Missy, and all of them were in that big collaboration right there, and it was phenomenal. They started working with Aaliyah. I mean, it was an amazing era, and he had a completely different sound. that fast. Like you
was
knew
nuts
what
up,
Timberland beat.
yeah.
When Timberland had the game, nobody could touch
Nobody
the
could touch
game.
him at all.
Nobody. Everybody wanted a Timberland beat.
Yeah.
Everybody. Jay wanted a Timberland
Everybody.
beat.
Timberland was
Nas
everywhere.
wanted a Timberland beat. Everybody wanted a Timberland.
Same with Neptunes.
Right.
Oh yeah, now
The Neptune sound was
Yeah,
fucking
they were
crazy.
everywhere.
Well, let's just say this on just to go to a different genre, just go to R&B. I think it's easy to say
early 90s.
late 90s.
There's the debate.
For R&B?
Yeah.
How far can we go back? The
Say you
70s is untouchable.
What are we talking? What are
You
we
talking
talking
about
about?
what? 70s untouchable?
70s is untouchable in R&B.
Are we talking R&B soul or R&B? Because I mean,
It depends on what
it's a
you're
lot.
talking about. If you're talking about
If we talking about R&B soul, then of course we
Seven.
can't go anywhere without. If you ever mention R&B without mentioning Al Green or Marvin Gaye,
Stevie
first of all,
Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. Like, so we got to.
Is that better than the Jodeci albums, the Mary J. Blige?
Yes.
Yes. And they were
Stevie
always
Wonder?
They will always outweigh Jodeci.
I'm mad
Here's the
Don't
thing.
boy even ask.
Here's the thing.
Stevie Wonder or Jodeci?
I can play Stevie, I can play Marvin, I can play Al Green, all with my daughter in the room, in the car, wherever. There's no way I'm putting on a Jodeci Freaking You album with my daughter
I
around.
ain't never freaking
Come on now, fam. Nah, fam. Turn it off.
But I
Turn
want
it
to say
off.
R. Kelly is arguably the king of R&B.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you're not crowning
King of
if you're not
debauchery.
crowning
I would
Marvin
say
Gaye,
Marvin Gaye is the
If-
king of it.
I hate
but-
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly would easily be the prince.
Exactly.
I hate R.
If you
Kelly.
crown you
R.
can hate him all
Kelly-
you want.
TP2.com is my
you
go-to
can
smash
hate
The
album.
epitome
All
of
you want
R&B for a long ass
He
time.
still can hold the crown. Like Lil Wayne right now is in the process of regaining the crown. He dropped 2 songs. I'll let y'all hear. He is back on that dedication flow. If R. Kelly got focused and got back on the 12 play vibe,
TP2 was
Scandal,
hot.
Scandal messed him up though. It's
Yeah.
not his
Yeah.
talent.
But the
It's just-
scandals, he said he had scandals before he came out with the Chocolate Factory and all of that. Like that thing happened. The first video came out in 2001, and he dropped TP 2000 came out. That
What
hit
video?
the chocolate, the sex scandal when he peed on the girl.
I still don't think it had the same attention that it does now.
But this is why not to take it away from R. Kelly, but this is why I would say the late 80s, early 90s might be better than the 70s because there was like
You
they
said
re-
late 90s.
That's what, but I'm thinking about the 80s too though. But no, I would just say
Talking about the
90s.
flip-flop.
The reason why I'm saying 90s because you got some classic choices. You got Mary J. Blige's. That's where they kind of what's
the
for
first 2 albums are classic.
classic. Like you know what I'm saying?
Donnell Jones.
Donnell,
You
Nick.
can't go.
The second album.
Where I wanna
Jodeci.
be. The
The
Where I
second
Wanna
album.
Be.
Yeah.
Jodeci, R. Kelly came out in that time.
Yeah.
12
Jodeci's
plays.
first 2 albums was Killer, Boys to Men.
Boys to
Put
Men.
like this in the
They first
90s.
two albums.
Jagged
In the
Edge.
90s, you got TP1 and TP2. TP2 is my go-to smash CD. You can go through that whole
Silk
Broadway to
album.
me is
Silk
still
came
the
back
best
out when Silk came back
Silk,
in my
Lose
bedroom.
Control.
Duh.
Yeah, Tony doing it.
Tony.
The Soul album is.
I would argue 90s versus 70s.
Sons of Funk for No
You
Limit.
can, Faith's first album was dope.
Faith
It's
First album
good,
was
but it's
Listen.
not a classic.
Yes, it was.
Nah.
D'Angelo.
Yes, Brown Sugar's a classic.
D'Angelo came
Aaliyah
out.
came out
and
in
the
the
second
90s.
album came out in the
Aaliyah's
90s.
first one's not a classic. Her second one is better. That's what she was starting.
Yeah.
Missy came out in the 90s.
Timberland.
Missy's first album is arguably one
But
of
she
the
was
greatest
solid.
albums of
I'll
all
put that in
time.
the
She would
hip-hop.
probably be in the hip hop though.
Yeah, even though she
No,
sang
she
a lot.
sang.
But she's not R&B.
Lauryn
She's
Hill.
not. Those
So you
songs-
taking
this
Lauryn
is
Hill
Lauryn
too?
Lauryn Hill would be in hip hop.
Lauryn,
No.
but arguably,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Miseducation is a lot of singing on that.
It's a lot of singing on Missy's album.
For every
But I think it's
Baby
more.
911.
It's more singing on. I don't know. They both.
They
are-
sing a lot.
They're
They
hybrid.
merged, yeah, they
Hybrid.
definitely
They're
merged. But I would
hybrid.
probably put Lauren more hip hop. I feel like she's done.
No, she sang a lot.
Listen, I would say she broke down a lot of barriers for females.
She
in
was
hip-hop.
Drake before Drake.
But Missy's biggest singles though, she rapping on those joints.
Yeah.
No, she sang on them too.
No, but she's rapping primarily on the joint. On her biggest hits, she's rapping.
She was
So-
the Kid Cudi before Kid Cudi. The whole rapping,
Ooh.
singing thing, Missy.
Right.
Kid Cudi raps.
No, but that's the thing. Like he sometimes has a balance.
No, she got
with
more
his,
bars.
His verse.
She was Drake. I can't say Drake.
I don't
Say
see
Drake.
a correlation between Missy and Kid Cudi though.
Drake and
Kid
Missy.
Cudi- well, so
You
what,
say
what does
Drake and
Kid Cudi
Missy.
do? Does he sing or does he rap? Because he doesn't really hold notes.
That's what I'm saying. I can't really tell. With Missy, I can tell when she's singing and when she's rapping. It's a distinct difference.
Right.
But with Kid Cudi, I'm like, I don't know what he's doing.
So who would you go with the best?
I'll take that.
What would you say for the best era of R&B, 70s or 90s? Are you still saying 70s?
90s.
No.
Again, we
Thank you.
didn't clarify if it's R&B or R&B soul. If it's R&B, I'm going 90s.
I mean,
if
we
it's
got
R&B,
R&B,
say
I don't have
R&B.
much for the rap.
If it's
R&B
R&B
The only
soul,
problem with the 90s is you can't, everything the 90s artists did built upon what was done in the 70s and 80s. So you can't argue for supreme originality.
But what was better?
But I feel like better for me. I don't know.
70.
70s is incredible. Like you can put a 70s album on.
Yeah.
You'll hear so many samples from hip hop and all
Yep.
the other 90s. You go, oh, that's what they
And-
that's
and-
better.
and
You
you'll
can let
hear-
the records play.
And you'll hear real instrumentation.
Right.
And that's what I was going to
That's
argue.
what
You
like the
actually have, like
70s
Earth, Wind, and
was-
Fire and them have real musicians. Stevie Wonder, real musician.
And
Frankie
all the
Valli.
songs you grew up loving in the 80s,
But
90s,
Boys
and
to
2000s, you be like, this is where
But
it
just
came
because
from.
you can build upon something and perfect it
And make it better.
and make it better than what it was.
But where they got it from
Kanye.
is still dope, though.
That is dope. But I said it's not
Yeah.
dope. But if I got to pick, like,
That's like saying, okay, basketball started with Bob Cousy, like, oh, he was the best then. But bro, you see Bob
LeBron.
Cousy dribbling now?
Right, exactly.
Bro, Kyrie will carve him up. Yeah, he was hot then. It was
Right.
dope then. But bro,
Jermaine's not hot.
bro, LeBron's son will cross up Bob Cousy right now.
But the thing is, though, R&B cats from that era, if they still alive, they can outplay the artists that stole from them or
Of course.
right.
And
But-
their catalogs are crazier.
Because they
than
were
most of-
they
most
were
of-
real musicians.
So let me just ask you this
not
in
just
a
samples back
simple
then.
question, a simple thesis to say it like this. If I put you on a beach for the next 3 summers, and you can only take albums from the 70s for R&B or from the 90s.
I'm taking the 70s.
You know that you can walk away from a beach. It's supposed to be an island that you're trapped.
Island, you know what I meant, nigga? Damn.
I'm just you went out of your way to do that.
I'm gonna take 70s.
70s? So what albums are you taking? What albums?
Here's why. Let me
My
explain.
feel from the 90s
Yeah.
and stole from the 70s.
And not only that, like most of the 90s stuff was all like sexualized. Like it was only sexual content. Most of it, I would say 70% of the albums were sexual content. In the 70s, you had like feel good music, you had sexual content, you had love music, and the songs were longer. Most of the songs in the 90s are like 3 minutes long. Songs from the 70s, you mess around and find an 11-minute song.
They'll just let the instruments rock
on Stevie
for a
Wonder's
long
joint.
time.
What do you think, yeah?
I don't know. It's a difficult argument because I love 90s R&B, and it wasn't as sexual as you're making it. It's a lot more sexual in the 2000s. But like Boyz II Men, Boyz II Men wasn't really overly sexual.
Jodeci.
They were playing
But
but
you-
it was mad sexual.
But you also had people like Silk and Jodeci who was like straight in your face. But the 70s had that too. Rick James was straight in your
You
face.
got
with it.
more in the 90s than you do in the
You got
70s.
Bobby
Well, you do
Brown's
have more,
album.
but
Did
that's
you
a
Bobby
different
Brown
era.
in the 90s? Bobby Brown?
Bobby Brown was right in your face with it.
He was like late 80s.
And he was more
when
80s
he
than
slid off.
90s.
Okay.
He was more. But personally, I would take the 90s.
So
Because I revisit
exactly.
more 90s music than I do 70s music. But I think the 70s was better music.
Like
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
overall, and
Quality.
I prefer quality. I prefer people who are musicians.
I probably
as
can
well.
name more R&B artists from the 70s than I can from the 90s.
Go ahead.
Curtis Mayfield, Marvin
Cur-
Gaye.
Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye,
Smokey Brown.
Teddy Pendergrass,
Oh, Teddy.
Stevie Wonder,
OJ.
Frankie Beverly and Mays,
Ohio
Earth, Wind
Players.
and Fire, Ohio Players, The Whispers,
Isley's were 70s, right?
Isaac Hayes.
Brothers.
But do they
Isaac
all have
Brothers.
really good albums?
Yes. What are you talking about?
Serious?
Name me one Ohio Players album.
Honey.
Oh.
And
You asked him about Ohio players?
You know,
Players
to
had
hear
the
those
best-
Ohio
They had
players,
the best album covers.
Oh my
Oh, the
God.
album
Still better than today's.
Man,
Killing
album
it.
cover.
With the lay down, with the knee up.
About to be fired when he's laid down.
He's laying down
Donald
looking
Summer
at you.
sitting on the Crescent Moon.
Shaka Khan? Come on.
The Shaka
That's the thing
Khan
that's
album
hard, man.
cover
Shaka
with her in the
Khan.
red dress.
Come on.
And then when he didn't have
You got her arms out? Come on. It's
If
close
Kanye,
case.
if Kanye didn't have 70s albums to sample, he would not be able to make nothing.
Dre too.
Yeah.
Dre too.
Oh, Dre. I mean,
Dr.
Dre.
Dre too.
Yeah, but I mean Kanye, but he had the
Kanye straight
But that
up.
can't be your argument that, hey, we sample from this so it makes it.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying.
That's why I'm picking the original.
Because you could
foundation
have
of it.
the
I can
70s
still get
music
my
without-
taste of the 90s.
Right.
from
You could
listening to
have
the
90s
original.
music feel without the 90s. You can't have 90s music feel without the 70s.
Right. If you take the 70s out,
But it's just like Cavs.
But
like,
the 70s built upon disco and stuff like that, all that funk and soul, like
Well, disco was in the 70s.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the soul music built upon disco. So every era built upon jazz, and all of it came from the church. First of all,
Okay.
blues, jazz, Am I lying?
Yeah.
All of it came from
Rock and roll came
Ray.
from-
All Ray Charles did when he made blues music is take gospel songs, gospel chord progressions, and change the lyrics.
That's fact.
He did and was like, oh snap!
And the church
This
is
is
like,
dope.
hey,
You
what is it
can
doing?
do that. Can you? Yes.
Devil chords.
Till this day, most of the best musicians and best singers in R&B, they got their start in the church. That's still
All
the
of
people that
So,
go to church.
Yeah.
so are we split on that? So me and you 90s, y'all to the 70s?
Yeah.
I think I'd have to go with the 70s.
Oh wow, we're gonna switch up. What you
Because
gonna
if
do?
you think about the quality of artists
70.
of the 90s
I've been to the
and
70s.
the quality of artists of the 70s, there's a big difference. There's a lot of great songs in the 90s, but the quality of artists, it's
You
like
see it
the
when they
greatest
was
hits
when they would
of even the
perform on a
Temptations.
live show, when they would perform on a live show like an award show, those cats from back in the day, they singing hard and no effort is being shown. Cats from the 90s, they be up there struggling, voices cracking,
Sweaty.
sounding like ostriches.
I saw,
No.
and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give you a good example. Now, if you went to an Earth, Wind, and Fire concert right now, you'd have a blast. When you go to now just Earth, Wind, and Fire. If you go to a 90s concert, it's always John B plus Next plus Silk plus, you gotta have 6 groups.
Oh shit.
You gotta do one.
Because
Okay.
I saw John B live. That dude, after he sang They Don't Know, it was just like, all right, now, what? You got 30 minutes.
What he didn't know is that we had 28 more minutes.
And that's the case for a lot of 90s art. They have a lot of good songs, but they don't have longevity. They don't have
Don't have
no.
the discography.
Most of them cannot,
The
outside of
catalog ain't held
probably.
up.
Right.
Most of them don't even have, outside of probably Jodeci and Boyz II Men, they can't even put together a 10 greatest hits.
Damn.
Yeah.
Hardly any of them. Drew Hill's greatest hits album has like 6 good songs
6
on it.
tracks.
I was like, the other 6 is just remixes of this.
But that's what I'm saying.
Just release the 5
that
piece.
just the catalogs alone, it's not a lot of artists, with the exception of like R. Kelly and Carl Thomas came out with like a lot of them, but he didn't have a lot of them on a major label. There aren't a lot of R&B artists in the 90s that had more than 3 albums.
Yeah.
You would be hard pressed
And
to
there's
find.
hardly any of them that had
name me
2 good
10.
ones.
Name me 10 that had more than 3
That's a
artists.
lot, nigga.
3 artists?
But
Three
name
albums.
me 10 artists that had. Name me 10 artists that have more than 3 R&B albums from the 90s.
Only R. Kelly.
Mhm.
You talking about from the 90s?
Yeah.
R.
Mary J.
Kelly.
Blige.
Mary J.
Mary J. Blige got
Bo-
about 9.
D'Angelo.
Boyz II Men.
D'Angelo only got 3
You
albums.
only got
Yeah.
3.
You
said
I said
three.
more than 3. I said more than 3
Boyz II-
albums.
But see,
Oh,
I can
more than
name
3
more
albums?
More than 3
Oh,
albums.
okay.
Boyz II Men.
Erykah Badu.
Uh-huh.
Jill Scott.
Donnell Jones.
Donnell Jones got more than 3. I feel like the
Joe,
buzz on
Raphael
the team-
Sadiq.
But see,
Raphael Sadiq.
I would, but I'm naming people,
He's
but I'm
always-
not gonna argue that albums 2, 3, and 4 are good.
Yeah.
They kept making music, but a lot of people keep
Oh, you talking
making
about
music.
3?
Like,
Oh, if you say
impactful
3 bangers,
albums.
then I'm out of here.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's say name me.
Whoa, we
You don't want that smoke.
No, we
though.
get ready to listen.
Because I
But
can
you're
give you,
right, though. You're
I
right.
can give you 10 artists from the 70s that's got more than
Right.
3 albums and they're bangers.
Pretty.
Cause
Stevie
you been
Wonder
through it.
was a
Stevie
hit
Wonder had
factory
whole
on his
albums
own.
that had.
Stevie Wonder is
Fire.
such an amazing artist. He toured and only did songs off of the Keys of Life.
Just recently, that last
Yeah.
one, we
That's
actually did.
all he did. No other album.
That's all he
Just
did.
songs off
Yeah.
of that one
His albums was
album.
like-
That's how amazing of an artist he is.
He has so many, like when you get his anthologies, it'd be like 40 songs.
Right.
20
It's
songs.
amazing.
Catalog.
But he made fantastic albums.
I'm
But
switching
he's
over.
also a legend. You,
Guys, I'm switching over to the 70s.
nah,
You guys have had a great case for this. So we're going 70s. We're going 70s for R&B, and I think we're gonna go 90s for hip hop. 92,
Okay, then.
97.
Mid 90s.
Mid 90s. Thank y'all for tuning in. We're here every Wednesday, 12:30. We were a little bit late today. We're sorry, but come back next week. We're gonna do it again. Holla, Doughboy.
Good job,
Guys.
Doughboy. Look at you, man.